guys, and welcome back to another episode of The Hidden Review. You didn't do your intro, your special intro.
My special intro.
Yeah, can you remember it?
Yo, it's Jay and Dre, and you are watching The Hidden Reviews of House of the Dragon, episode 3. You done know, we're coming to you direct. Reel up the ting.
Let us know if you like Jordan's intro, if you should stick with mine. Okay, so episode 3 starts off with the the beginnings of the Battle of the Burning Mill.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Brackens versus the Blackwoods, who have been a feuding family for years. However, their latest inquest has been getting at whether they support Aegon or Rhaenyra as heir, queen or king. So they have a little bit of a beef ting, a little bit of a cheeky little war, and we see what happens, how that turns into a full-blown battle later on in the air.
We then cut to the twin knights' funeral, Arik, and Eric, as they're being buried. And interestingly enough, Jaehaerys II, I believe, which is obviously Rhaenyra's son, he's a little bit like angry about it. He's like, oh, this shouldn't have happened. He's kind of getting a bit of a fuel for revenge. And we might see him later in a Dance of the Dragons battle. Potentially. He's starting to get to that stage. Also, we have Rhaenys kind of talking to Rhaenyra about, where did this all stem from? Where has this war even started? Was it Aemond losing his eye to Lucerys? Was it Aemond killing Lucerys? Was it Jaehaerys II? No. The baby who died. The baby who died, was it him losing his head? Where has this all started? And she's basically saying it doesn't matter where it started. People are just going to war just for the fun of war. The actions that have happened have been set in motion. It's too late to stop it. It's like a rolling stone.
What's actually another thing that... Oh, by the way, guys, we've actually filmed an episode yesterday, but our mics weren't working. So now, if you hear me say, oh my God, one thing that I didn't think of yesterday, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But one thing that I didn't think of yesterday is how the camera is like at the funeral with Rhaenyra's gang, and we look as Eric and Arik are being buried. The next shot is actually of Kristen Cole looking down. So it's almost like he's kind of looking at the issue. He's kind of looking at what he caused, kind of thing, and how he's not smart. But anyway, he gets called to the council because now he's the hand of the king. Worst hand that ever did hand.
Definitely. This is first day on the job.
First day on the job, and he's already shit.
He's already made a mistake.
But anyway, he gets called to the council, and we now see that he is the new hand of the king. He walks past the gold cloaks, white cloaks, whatever, and they're all like slacking because now they are all Aegon's friends, as opposed to the previous kind of like noblemen that were, doing the job properly. So he goes to the council and...
basically, while the War Council are squabbling over what to do next, Kristen Cole comes up with an amazing idea, even though Daemon's done it first, to go to Harrenhal, because Harrenhal is going to be a major staple point within the war. But fun little tidbit, as good as it would be, because it's too big to garrison, it's also a huge liability for whoever owns it during this Dance of the Dragons civil war. So he suggests that he's going to do it by himself, but later on you'll see that he will be accompanied by another traveler to go with him on that quest. Yeah.
Also in this meeting, we see that there's complete disarray because Kristen Cole is a shit hand. Like, that's just what it is.
Can't emphasize that enough.
He can't manage the room properly, and they're discussing the battle that's happened between the Brackens and the Blackwoods, and that there's talk going on there that one's in support of Aegon and one's in support of Rhaenyra. And Aegon's like excited. He's saying like, oh, this is somebody fighting in my name. And the rest of the council are like, no, babe, they've been arguing, they've been feuding for years now. Like, you ain't special. Literally. And Aegon's like, no, like, this is it. And they're like all talking amongst each other. Like, it's not really, they're all giggling, laughing. It's not very like serious. And Kristen Cole is also giving this stupid idea to take Harrenhal when it's all, do you know what I mean? All of this kind of stuff. And Alicent is like, bro, like, we need to pattern up, like, war is coming. nobody listens to her.
That's it.
Nobody's saying anything.
She's literally the voice of reason. She's probably one of the smartest in the room because they're all just talking dumb shit. She even says to Kristen Cole, basically in subtext, what you're suggesting to do is a suicide mission. They've got, at the moment, Team Black has more dragons than Team Green. Because Team Green only has Sunfire and Helena's one, who I'm forgetting the name of. And they've got a
Vega.
And Vega, that's it. They've only got 3 dragons, whereas Team Black has got a good 5, maybe 6. So basically, they're already outnumbered in terms of the dragons, or their nukes, should we say, because that's what they'd be in modern day. But basically, even though Alison's like, don't do it, it's a bad idea, Aegon's like, no, it's good. Go, it sounds good. Because obviously he's sanctioned him as Hand of the King. He's meant to be his advisor, even though he's dog shit. And he's like, yeah, whatever he says, you can go. It's crazy.
And also Aegon decides that he wants to go as well, like a dickhead. Anyway, after that whole messy council situation,
yes,
we then have an interesting little scene between Rhaenyra and Mysaria, the White Worm. And they're having like a kind of conversation just about stuff, and her being appointed as the Master of Whispers, which is interesting because Aegon appoints his own Master of Whispers formally.
Foot fetish guy, aka Laris Strong.
But we'll get back to that. But what's interesting is whilst they're having this conversation about her appointing her as Master of Whispers, we see Laenor's dragon in the back, very restless, and the White Worm.
Sea Smoke.
I don't know the name of the dragon. You're the dragon name.
I'm the dragon namer, yes.
I don't know the dragon.
Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I think it's Sea Smoke. Sea something. Sea Smoke.
I think it's Sea Smoke.
Sea Smoke, yeah.
And Sea Smoke is just restless in the background. Very beautiful shot, by the way. And White Worm asks, like, oh, what's all that about? Like, why is he acting like that? And Rhaenyra's like, oh, well, you know, when they're restless like that, they kind of miss their rider. They're trying to look for a rider. This, and that. Obviously, we know Laenor is alive with his lover, living somewhere else. And I think that White Worm, being the master of secrets that she is, she knows that this is a thing. 1,000%. And she's like, interesting. I don't know what she's going to do with that information, but it's just interesting that she kind of like pointed that out and said like, ooh, that's an interesting thought.
And then after that, we then cut to, I think it's Rhaenyra and Rhaena. So Rhaenyra is realizing that the Dance of the Dragons is about to happen. It is not safe where they are in the Black Council, especially because they had a whole twin knight come after her in the previous episode. So she's realizing I'm going to have to get me, pick me, and send them out somewhere else. So that's what she's doing for Joffrey and Aegon III. And she's sending them off to the Vale where Lady Jane Arryn is. And I think they are related.
Yes, so Jane Arryn is related to her on her mum's side.
That's it.
And she's in the Vale, isn't it?
I think it is the Vale, or in towards Pentos.
Yeah.
So she's sending her kids out towards Pentos, and she wants Rhaena, basically her cousin / stepdaughter, which is weird AF, to go with them and raise them as her own, because she doesn't know how long this war is going to be. I think in her mind she's thinking it's going to be at least a couple of decades, but in reality it's going to be a couple of years.
Yeah.
So she's sending them there.
Lady Arryn has only asked for a dragon in return.
For an army.
Yeah. The Vale can't be, like, nobody's hitting me here. Do you get it? Like, where it is. But a dragon would be safer for her to have.
That's it, like a little guard dog to protect the Vale, and then she's going to loan her army to Rhaenyra in helps for the war. Daemon pulls up to Harrenhal.
The funniest thing, by the way, like I'm talking, Daemon pulls up in full dragon armor with sword, ready to go for a battle. It's pouring with rain. It looks dramatic as hell.
He knocks out a guard.
He is on job. Enters the castle. He's like, I'm taking Harrenhal.
And then literally Simon Strong, the owner, is like, yeah, cool, that's fine, mate. Do you want some dinner? Literally no resistance. Like, speak with your chest. A guy is just coming, trying to take over your area, and he's like, yeah, he just lays down, stomach up, tail between his legs. Yeah, just come, eat some food.
Word, he even just kneels down and says, I'm a supporter of Rhaenyra to the old gods and the new.
Yeah.
Do you want some dinner? Do you want some potatoes?
That's it. Venison with some black cabbage, no red currant.
Come and have a meal. Anyway, Daemon sits around that table, and we do get some really, really interesting Game of Thrones as a whole lore.
That's it.
They talk battle strategy. They talk what they're gonna do, and Damon's plans with now having Harrenhal, and we learn a bit more about the history of it. We learn about how it is a strategic playing field, also how it is big. It's very difficult to manage. It's like not necessarily, although it's the biggest castle, it is also just very like run down. It's not an easy feat basically to manage.
And a fun thing, due to the fact that the Battle of the Burning Mill has just happened, Simon Strong says to Daemon, yeah, you can take over this place as much as you want, but the armies are currently diminished after that battle, because obviously the Blackwoods and the Brackens have just gone at it, so their armies are very, very low. And they're having to sort out that complete dispute in order to get them ready towards helping out one of the armies. So they're pretty much useless at the moment. Also, Daemon is trying to flex his whole royalty thing, because as Simon Strong basically addresses him saying, oh, my prince, and Daemon looks at him like, what did you call me? And he goes, ooh, my grace. Even though you're king consort, mate. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Calm down. You're not king, you're king consort. Stay in your lane. Also, there is a little prelude to Daemon saying about, I'm not here for poisoned peas. And later on, he does go on a bit of a rampant vision.
And I personally think that the witch woman that was there,
Alice Rivers,
she low-key put some mushrooms in it or some sort of hallucinogens in his food.
We didn't see it. It's not confirmed. It is only
I slyly think she did some. But anyway, we'll get back to that later on in the ep. We then get to Rhaenyra talking to Corlys at Driftmark.
Yes. Talking about who the heir is going to be. I think Corlys wants it to be Joffrey, even though that's not his legitimate grandson. You can flip and tell. You know what I mean? But because he carries the name Valerian, that is why he wants to keep it in the family name. Whereas Rhaena,
who is actually meant to be
his biological granddaughter and is the rightful heir, she doesn't carry that name because Daemon's her father. She's Rhaena Targaryen and not Rhaena Valerian, and that's why there's a bit of a dispute of who Corlys wants as his successor
and who makes sense. And so Rhaenyra and Corlys kind of have like this battle, but not battle, but like a little dispute. But what's really interesting about that is that last episode they were kind of plotting. Like there's a lot of talk about who's going to be in succession of Driftmark, and I feel like there was those two black guys, the brothers, the ones that saved Corlys, that I'm not too sure who they are. I'm not too sure where they came from. I'm not too sure what's happening. Even in last episode, the brother that arrived, I don't even know their names at this point, he was looking up and he saw a dragon. Like, I don't know what they're trying to sow there. I don't know if he is a dragon rider. But this episode, episode 3, does talk a lot about dragon seeds and about people who are Targaryen, who are Valerian, that are not the upper class. They're not the people that we've been following. And that comes back later when we go to a scene with the small folk. Anyway, back to Aegon's council. Back to Aegon getting ready to go. Yeah,
we're going to the Green Camp now, and we are basically seeing how Kristen is getting ready to go on his adventures. However, he then encounters Alicent's brother, Gwaine Hightower. And Gwaine is a little bit of a rich boy dickhead. He kind of goes up to Kristen and he's like, oh, so my father was hand of the king for 3 generations and you've just come along from modest beginnings and you're now the king's hand. Well done, mate. You know what I mean? Low-key patronization, which, you know, was a bit dickheadish.
Also while he's banging your sister.
While he's banging your sister, my friend. And then basically Kristen gets Alicent's favor, even though it looks like their relationship is low-key on the rocks. They're kind of like, what's the word? Icy, or kind of like just platonic towards each other, really. They're not really, unless they're just good at hiding the relationship.
But what's also very interesting is it's a callback to the jousting tournament that happened in the first season one of the first episodes,
Yeah.
where Rhaenyra and Alicent were giving favors to the jousters, to the knights, and Alicent gave her favor to Daemon, and Rhaenyra gave her favor to Kristen.
And look what's happened.
So it's very interesting. Like it was like a call back to that moment type thing. But yeah, so they kind of set off. But also before that, Aegon wanted to get moving and get going. With Larys. So he was there dressed up in Aegon the Conqueror armor, like ready to go. And foot fetish guy,
Larys.
FFG, he comes and says, I don't think you should go. And he spins some story about how if he leaves, Alicent and Aemond are going to plot against you and blah, 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 and all of this kind of shit. We all know his cat. But what's interesting is that's when he appoints foot fetish guy as his official Master of Whispers, which is a turning point. Also in this conversation, his two little knights, his gold cloaks, are giggling about, ha ha ha, one of them hasn't lost his virginity, which is technically what they're meant to do. Like the gold cloaks are meant to be celibate. Even though Kristen Cole, who's the head of them, has been fucking and sucking Alicent, he still is like, they're like, oh, we need to get his willy wet. Aegon's like, whatever. Basically, they convince him to go out, go get drinks, get all of these kind of stuff, blah 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 blah, in order to kind of like get over his son. I think we also missed the scene.
Well, not exactly missed the scene. I just wanted to throw in that when Kristen Cole is leaving with Gwaine, you see a nice shot of the original Ratcatcher still hanging on the actual noose with a crow still pecking his eye out. Throwback to when they tried to kill baby Jaehaerys, which is an interesting one for me.
Peak. I was gonna say that we also get a scene with Alicent and Helena.
Helena, yes.
With Alicent and Helena.
Helena, that's it.
And Helena, for some reason, is like,
I forgive
perky.
you. Yeah.
She's just perky happy. She's like, babes die all the time. Blah, 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 blah. I forgive you. To her
complete 180 from how she was feeling in the middle of the second episode.
100%. Having panic attacks. She's calm now. And obviously, we know that Helena sees the future. So we don't actually know what she's forgiving her mother for. It could be for the fact that she was, for the whole situation that happened with Kristen Cole and how he wasn't guarding and doing the job that he was meant to do. We don't know whether she's forgiven her for something in the future that she can see is going to happen, potentially the end of the episode, should I say, or if it's something completely different. But either way, she forgives her.
And then in the next scene, we are back in Team Black HQ, and they are basically talking over different war tactics. They're basically saying how they want to use the dragons to start attacking the green strongholds and try and weaken their defenses. But Rhaenyra is kind of like, no, the dragons will be the destruction of us all. And as I said in yesterday's video, which didn't get uploaded, we don't exactly know. Well, if it's in the books, I've not read the books, but it wasn't really shown, if I'm not mistaken, in the Game of Thrones TV show, how the dragons came to extinction. And I think it's going to be something to do along with the lines of the dance of the dragons, and they're going to wipe each other out. And basically, I think that's a bit of a foreshadowing of Rhaenyra saying they will be our destruction. And then one cheeky advisor kind of steps out of line a little bit and says, oh, maybe you should just run and hide somewhere, be somewhere safe, and then we can basically act as a distraction for when the enemy come and try to invade us again. And I'm thinking, she should have your head for that, mate. You're telling your queen that she should not conduct this war, but she should instead run and hide somewhere safe. Is it because she's a woman, my friend?
And
are you
also,
a little bit sexist on that?
You're talking to Rhaenyra, like, she ain't gonna be...
She's that bitch.
She ain't gonna be the one to be like, I'm gonna run and hide. And also in yesterday's episode, which you mentioned, is that the dragons being the destruction of us all reminds me of the nuclear war that we're facing in our current time. And it also, it's just like, if anybody uses it, it's curtains. Like, everybody's gonna die.
Endgame.
And it's interesting that Rhaenyra's like, bro, don't you understand like what's going on here? Like, if this happens, we're pissed. Like, we're done.
Just before we end that scene, a fun little tidbit. Rhaenys actually comes up after Rhaenyra's left and says, she's basically saying, what did she say? She basically backs up Rhaenyra, saying, I'm paraphrasing, but she's basically like, look, you don't even know what's going on. Rhaenyra is doing her best part to do what she can do. She basically bigs up Rhaenyra, which I really liked. Rhaenys has got Rhaenyra's back.
100%. And she says, she puts further ideas in her head that she should speak to Alicent.
1000%.
Find a way to speak to Alicent, because she knows that Alicent is probably also thinking the same thing. The girls are trying to stop the war.
That's it.
The girls are trying to stop it.
We then go to
Damon.
No, we're in the thing. They're in the brothel.
tavern.
They're in the brothel, the tavern. So, basically, interesting character. I've forgotten his name, but he is claiming to be the half brother of Daemon and Viserys, claiming he is Baelor the Brave's bastard son, and he's basically got Valyrian blood, and how he's a supporter of Rhaenyra. Now, before we go into what we said yesterday's episode, I did a little bit of digging, and there could be a possibility, because there's currently a handful of dragons that are riderless, like Sea Smoke and Helena's one, because she's not really using that dragon. I don't know whether they're setting him up to be a dragon rider further down the line, but this guy is claiming to be of Valyrian ancestry.
Isn't he Targaryen?
Targaryen ancestry, but he's got Valyrian blood.
And he's sitting in this tavern, and he's like, I support Rhaenyra. Just as he says that, Aegon bursts through the door, and he's like, drinks on the king, drinks on the king.
Oh, the king! After you just chatting shit.
Oh, the king, oh, the king. I said, right, like a pussy.
Oh, man. Yeah, I'm in.
Back your own beef, bro. Like, what? Anyway, cool. So Aegon comes in. He's now drinking, doing all this stuff. Trying to get his boys Willy wet. So he goes around, he starts opening all the brothel doors.
You see madness behind those doors, bro. X-rated.
X-rated. Anyway, he pulls back the curtain to one of these rooms, and it turns out Emmond is there with his OnlyFans mummy. And he's laying there, fetal position, being mummy cuddled. And Aegon starts corning him. He's like, "Raw, you're still with the woman that took your virginity, bro. Wow, can't believe it. This is brazy." Blah blah blah. Obviously not said like that.
Yeah.
But I'm translating.
Yes.
He's like, "Yeah, oh, that's brazy." All his boys are like laughing and shit like that. And Emmon, he just stands up, cock out, flaccid as hell, and goes, "Do you know what? Fair enough. Any whore, what is he saying? Any whore's a whore.
Something like
that. Always a whore, something like that. And basically gives the blessing for his boy to sleep with his OnlyFans mummy, love of his life, and walks out really pissed.
Then on to the next scene, we see Kristen and Gwaine in the middle of the field, open area, on their way to do their mission, trying to infiltrate the enemy of Team Black. But then all of a sudden, Kristen Cole somehow develops spidey senses and just for whatever reason, looks up in the sky. You don't see anything. You don't see any shadows. Nothing goes, we're out in the open. Something's wrong. He basically like, something's about to happen. And we're like, what do you mean? What are the signs that you've picked this up? And basically, Baelor is on her dragon, patrolling the skies, and she sees them all in the field and then starts to swoop down and attack. They have to then do a quick run into the forest to try and avoid her being picked up by her dragon. But still, for me, I'm like, what signs did you see? How did you know that was going to happen?
I think he's just been in and around the Targaryen.
He's from around the way.
He's like, I just know some shit. I know some shit.
That's it.
But also, this is kind of like a pivotal moment because, first of all, Gwaine shits his pants.
Yeah.
Second of all, Kristen Cole's like, oh, I'm forgetting that they have dragons too. Oops. Oopsie. And also, Baelor goes back to Rhaenyra and says, this is what's happened down in the fields. They're coming. And so this kind of gives Rhaenyra the kick up the backside to actually send her babies away. So she sends them, the two twins. One of them is Aegon the Third, and I can't remember the other one. And then one's Joffrey, and I don't know. There's 3 kids. 2 of them are named. I don't know the other one.
I think it's Jaehaerys.
Jaehaerys the Third.
Yeah.
Aegon the Third, and then Joffrey. And so she's sending them away with Rhaena.
Yeah.
And also some dragon eggs. She sends her with 4 dragon eggs.
Yeah.
And they're kind of like reserve eggs for we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But what's also very interesting, and I'm not sure. I haven't read the books and I don't really know much about the lore. But I think that might be a nod because they're going to the east and they're going away. It might be a nod to the dragon eggs that Daenerys gets. But that's 3. She gets 3.
Yeah. When
she's been given 4. So I don't know what happens to the 4th one. It might hatch and, there might be a little a surprise dragon in the battle of the dancing dragons, Dance of the Dragons. However, I think it might be a little nod to the 3 eggs that Daenerys gets in Game of Thrones.
We'll have to wait and see. But that was a very interesting scene. Next, we have Daemon and his visions. So we see Daemon, he's just wandering the halls in his visions, and then he bumps into a younger Rhaenyra who is sewing on the head of the baby Jaehaerys that has lost his head. Now, for me, that says that Daemon still sees Rhaenyra as that child, and it kind of maybe could reaffirm a theory that he subconsciously believes she's not right to rule and it should be him. Maybe that could be a nod towards that. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe it's Maybelline. We just don't know. But he's seeing Rhaenyra sewing on the head of the baby Jaehaerys who lost his head, and he's also crying while he's seeing it. So this could be a form of him dealing with his grief, coming to the consequences of what he's done, and his accountability as well.
And also, young Rhaenyra says, "I'm always cleaning up your mess."
That's it.
So I think he also understands it's a battle within him. Seeing her as the young girl that she is, and thinking those things, but also looking at her like she is always right.
Yeah.
I need to pattern up. So I think he's going to make his way back to Dragonstone and listen to what Rhaenyra says.
We also see him in the forest in his visions, and that is where Alice Rivers says, "You're going to die here." Interestingly enough, in an American accent. Let me know down in the comments if there's ever been an American in Game of Thrones TV show or House of the Dragons. I heard that accent and I was like, that took me out of the lore for a second.
I really didn't hear
Why is that? Listen, am I bugging? I heard an American accent.
I don't know.
You're going to die here. And I'm like, what the fuck?
I didn't hear it, but maybe it's a West Country or something. I don't know. But yeah, so Daemon gets these hallucinations, and that's where I think that the woman put crack in his food. Moving on, but into the last couple of scenes of the ep.
White Worm and Rhaenyra setting the plan to infiltrate.
So Rhaenyra goes back to her quarters.
That's it.
Where we see her sitting where she was once playing with the kids in the last episode. And she's kind of like putting the toys away. She's feeling very emotional that she's had to send her kids away. And then she finds a letter that she never opened from Alicent. And in the letter, Alicent is apparently saying, we don't need to go to war. Let's meet. Let's talk. She goes to White Worm and says, look, I need to, the Red Keep. How can I get in to speak to Alicent without dying, basically? And White Worm's like, well, if you're not a whore and you're not a highborn, you should be able to get in.
No problem.
Easy. No problem. Ain't nobody gonna
look you. Yeah.
Ain't nobody gonna look upon you. So she just suffers a nun, and they do a stealth mission of getting her into what I think is the crypt, but it's some sort of church establishment. The place where Alicent goes and lights those candles for those that have died.
Yeah.
And so with White Worm's intel, she sneaks in successfully. My heart was pounding the whole time, but she does. And she pulls out the shank on Alicent and is like, yo, if you scream, I'll kill you. Alicent is like, okay, and then what? And then Rhaenyra's like, bro, charge. Anyway, let's talk. She's like, anyway, let's talk.
That's it.
And so in this bit, Rhaenyra brings up the joust. Actually, she brings up the joust, and she's like, do you remember when we were watching them men fight? And it's like, men want to fight. Men want this thing. They go to war for no reason. They go to war. But we think of things, we think of strategy. I know that you don't want this, I don't want this. Like, the girls are talking, and Alison is like, yeah, I get you, but baby, it's too late. It's a little too late.
And not only that, they were talking about the night Viserys died and what he really meant, and how basically he said a certain thing, and Alison says it to Rhaenyra, and Rhaenyra's like, wait, say that again. So then she repeats it, and then he's like, is that exactly what he said? And then Alison's like, yes, of course. And then Rhaenyra finally says, no, he wasn't talking about Aegon II, your son. He was talking about Aegon the Conqueror, and how it wasn't meant to be Aegon II. And then you can kind of see in Alison's face that it's all adding up. She's putting two and two together. But then that's at the point where she's like, you know what? Even if I'm wrong and you're right, it's too late.
There's been too much has happened. Your son's died, my grandson's died.
That's it.
We've been, Emma's lost an eye. Like, there's so many things that have happened that have led to this moment.
Which ties back to what Raina said at the beginning. Where did it all start? It doesn't matter. People are going to beef just to beef, not even for
not even for the reasons why you think we're warring.
It ties back to her comment.
And also Rhaenyra also has that idea, but she's looking at it like this could be saved. Alison is like, it's charged.
Too late.
Let's just do what we got to do.
Too late to apologize.
Too late. It's a little too late, a little too long, and I can't wait. So Rhaenyra looks at her like, I bet. End of the ep.
And that pretty much to me says peace is no longer an option.
Yeah.
They've both tried. Rhaenyra has been trying for peace for so long. I think it's due to her heritage, because Viserys, peaceful king. Jaehaerys, the one before him, a very, very peaceful king. She's trying to maintain that peace through the lineage. And finally, it's at that breaking point. It's like, no, burn all the peaceful shit. It's time for war.
So personally, I think the war started now.
That's it. We're going to see the Dance of the Dragons. We're going to see some dragon fights. My prediction is, I was doing a little bit of digging, and I think the Battle of Rook's Rest is coming up very soon.
Yes, because they do mention it. They mentioned it in the Black Council.
That's it.
About Rook's Rest. So I do think that battle is coming up. I'm interested to see what they're going to do with the bastard that was mentioned, and with him being in support of Rhaenyra, whether that's going to be another dragon rider in the battle. I'm really interested in that. I'm also interested in what's going to happen with Rhaena and the kids and them growing up and that whole relationship, and I'm really interested to see what happens there as well.
That's it.
But yeah, guys, that's the episode. Hopefully this time the mic's recorded and you got everything. And make sure you like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more of this, so we know. We've got so many exciting things coming up for you guys today.
More reviews, more everything. We're here for it. Let's get it.
Bye, guys.
In a bit.